Guys here. We are joined today by Kate Fuse, who is a PA and has been working in the bariatric community for some time now. And Kate, just say hi, and I'll kind of do a more formal introduction here in a moment.
Thank you, Brenda. Thank you for having me. My name is Kate Boos. I'm a bariatric physician assistant. I have been a PA for about 12 years in surgery, and now I just work in the outpatient clinic setting doing surgical and medical weight loss in Atlanta, Georgia at Beltline Health. I also am really passionate about providing support for patients and have a virtual aftercare program called Banana Bariatrics. That's just a little bit about me.
Yes, and you're just amazing person. Like you guys, she's a wealth of knowledge, and I also want to say, just has a passion for this. And Kate, I know it just shows through your aftercare program, the Banana Bariatrics, and also, actually have seen you on TV before. She's been on TV
Yeah,
with some of these
TLC. Oh gosh.
TLC, with some of these. It was Thousand Pound Best Friends. Anything
Yeah.
else? Because I
No,
know
I'm not
you.
a celebrity, really. I'm just part of the team and they film here. So it's more of Dr. Proctor who's the main celebrity. But thank you. You're so sweet. That was a
Yeah,
fun
so
experience.
it really was. You work with Beltline, but you
I
also
do.
have your own independent um, aftercare program called
I
Banana
do.
Bariatrics.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, Banana Bariatrics was just an extension, kind of what you guys are doing with your community too. So patients just have like a really vetted source of information and support and mentorship, because it can be hard on social media, just all it takes is a negative comment or something for you to just not find that connection or support with other people. So, or the wrong information. So that's really how it all started, and it's really grown into a wealth of education and all kinds of other support. Mhm.
Well, it probably works well with combination what you're doing and then seeing where the gaps are, seeing with
Yeah,
your post-op care, because I'm sure you
yeah,
see patients in the clinical setting
oh yeah,
post-operatively. Tell us about what you do at Beltline there and how that fits
yeah.
with Banana.
Yeah, I see patients along the entire spectrum and journey, bariatrics. So, from a weight loss surgery standpoint, if they're coming into surgery and then through that process lifelong, we know that a big gap in care is the aftercare and the support. And so that's why we actually utilize Banana Bariatrics at our current practice because it really just helps during that time you have with a patient when you just only have so much time. There's so much to get through with a bariatric patient visit. And a lot of patients have questions of how do I cook? How do I meal prep? What's nutrition? Everyone has different understanding of their of nutrition. And so being able to offer that kind of virtual platform that's on demand is really helpful because I can focus in on their specific questions and their specific needs. And I do a lot of the medical weight loss side as well. So all the injectable medications, the generic off-label for weight loss medications, I do those too, which play really nice after surgery. Patients have those added on and take them before surgery as they are losing weight and bettering their health before. So I do a mix of all of that, some minor procedure stuffs in the office and labs, and that's really relevant for today's visit is I really have a finger on the pulse of what patients are asking and what kind of questions they have, but also what they're not getting from their primary care. And that's talking about hormones and insulin resistance more specifically. So today was a really timely conversation about that because this is what I talk to our patients about and give them a lot of control in the matter. Once they learn more about it, what they can do to actually help improve their health objectively, especially people who are those people who like data and like numbers. This is a good talk for them.
I think sometimes it's hard to be able to share. Every program is just a tiny bit different on how they treat different things and stuff. But
Yeah.
I've been on here before, and you've always seemed to simplify it and make it applicable to programs. So basically, I also want to mention too, like the information that you're providing is something that if we have a professional, because we have professionals on these calls, professionals
Mhm.
can take back and use with their patients, and also as a
Yeah.
patient,
Mhm.
go back and use it as well, because many people, whether actually, guys, whether you're on the medical part of weight loss, which is a lot of times a GLP-1, There's a lots of
Mhm.
other things too that help regulate the blood sugars. But I feel like this whole thing with
Mhm.
blood sugar regulation has become so mainstream now, and it's
Yeah.
become so important in your in insulin resistance. So that's what our topic
Yeah.
today. Tell us what we're going to be talking about and what you're
Yeah.
going to get into so that they can know what to expect.
Yes, we're going to be talking about blood sugar and insulin and how they dance together and what that means if you are told by a provider that you have insulin resistance. And then just some action steps of what you can do because it is something that's completely reversible in a lot of cases. And so just regaining that power back of, okay, I know what I know, and now I want to be in action. And that's something I'm really passionate about is not just being a passive receiver of information here when we go through the talk is okay, well, what can we do about that? How are you going to make changes in your actual life? And then giving you the authority to track that in your own, you know, journey to see how you're doing and how those changing are really improving your metabolic health. So that's what today's talk is going to be about. Really excited.
Awesome. So Kate will be talking just for a little while she's talking, guys. Put all your questions in our chat feature. If you're on our Zoom on the live event, there is a Q&A button that you can actually use to pinpoint questions, and it makes it easy for us to go back and answer all of those. She's going to wait until we get to the end of her presentation, which is not long, but we're going to be
Yeah.
letting her talk first, and then we're going to go back and answer questions. So feel free, if you're on a replay, feel free to put in the chat box at a later time here with asking questions, because we can always go back and answer those. And I want to say hi. We are on both Zoom and Facebook, so hi to all the people on both of those forums. And Kate, I'll let you go ahead and share your screen and get at it here, guys. So
Love it.
question away, guys. If you have things, please put in the chat box and we will continuously be watching that.
Awesome. Okay. Can you guys see this in presentation mode? Okay,
Yes.
perfect. All right, great. I'm going to minimize our screen so that, oops. Ah, okay, perfect. All right, so we're going to be talking about metabolic health, after bariatric surgery, but you don't have to be a weight loss surgery patient for this to qualify or matter to you. So, like I said, we're going to be talking more about understanding insulin resistance and really focusing on labs because that's something we can monitor and track and really help us drive our own behavior change, making some key lifestyle changes that'll really help keep you on track and motivated, especially if you're further out after surgery or just want to get back on track with any regain. So we're going to go through a lot today, but not in too much detail. We're going to talk about why lab tests matter after bariatric surgery. We're going to talk about insulin and glucose physiology. So physiology is just how it's working in your body. We're going to learn what insulin resistance is and something called the HOMA-IR and what that is. That's a calculation. So we're going to talk about how to use that and how to use that as a metric to monitor your metabolic health along with other lab tests to consider. I always love reading, and so sharing any kind of good reads. So there was a book called Good Energy by Casey Means that pulls in some really great tips and tricks. So if you have your Audible or some birthdays coming up and you want a book to add to the list, I would write that one down, but we'll talk about that again. Behavioral modifications to improve your lab values and just the importance of staying really well connected to your team. And then I'll just, at the end, we'll kind of circle back for the Q&A section. So why lab tests matter after bariatric surgery? If you're not already getting labs done before surgery, it's really important to definitely make sure you're getting that after you've had weight loss surgery. It's really, what we end up doing is every 6 months. And then if they're rock solid and a patient doesn't have a super malabsorptive procedure, we'll kind of space out every year. But if we detect something on there, we're going to check more often. So it is important if it's been a long time since you've had your labs drawn, circle back with your team to get it collected again. So it's really pivotal to ensure optimal health and early detection of deficiencies. Sometimes with our malabsorptive procedures like bypass, SADI, or switch, I'll get a full panel of labs even before they get to the operating room because I sometimes do find vitamin deficiencies, iron deficiencies. And so we want to be proactive to make sure you're nutritionally and metabolically optimized. We're also going to be using that lab panel to track for insulin resistance and your metabolic health. So the bariatric panel is very different than what I even order on a medical weight loss patients panel or what you're probably getting at your primary care provider's office. Some primary care providers don't even have an insulin level that's being checked. And so that is something that I hope you can have a conversation with your primary care provider if they don't have it to include it. And make sure it's fasted. So you don't want to eat before you have your labs drawn because it's really helpful to get that fasting insulin level and the fasting glucose level. And these labs really just provide insight on what's working and what needs improvement. After bariatric surgery, that's really relevant to see how your body is absorbing your vitamins. Are you taking your vitamins appropriately and timely with food, where some of those vitamins like A, D, E, and K can really be absorbed? And so it just helps us open up conversation topics. And also if we detect anything ahead of time, like insulin resistance.
Hey,
So let's
Kate,
kind of, yeah. Mhm.
I just wanted to make sure. Right now, I see your screen. It's your primary slide from the very beginning. Is that the
Oh,
slide that you're wanting to show?
it is not. Let me go back
Okay.
and let's see, stop share.
I thought maybe you were the way you were talking, I thought, well, I bet she has a slide on this.
I'm glad you stopped me. Let me go back and see if, oops, oops, hitting all kinds of buttons. Here we go. Try this. All right, perfect. Now you can see it okay?
Yes, I sure can.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so I'll keep an eye on that. So, yeah, that's basically what I was mentioning is just doing it regularly. It helps you track things along the way, and it gives you feedback so you can modify as needed. All right, I just changed the slide. Are we still good with tracking it? Um, yes. Okay, sorry, I didn't have your video pulled up. All right, so insulin and glucose physiology. So, how this is working in your body. What is glucose? Glucose is basically sugar that provides energy for the body's cells. It is the main currency of your body. And what is insulin? So, insulin is a hormone, which is basically a chemical messenger, and it is produced and made by the pancreas. That is an organ that sits right underneath your stomach. Insulin's job is to take that blood glucose and bring it into your cells so that they can absorb it and start using it for energy. So when your blood sugar goes up, your pancreas releases insulin, and insulin's job is to bring that glucose down into normal. So that's what happens. So after eating, glucose enters the bloodstream, prompting insulin to be released, which allows cells to absorb glucose. So initially, the body is producing more insulin to compensate for reduced effectiveness. And let me just pause here and give a little bit more detail of what's really going on. So if we overeat or overconsume on calories that our body doesn't need, that puts us into fat storage mode. And that can get stored in our organs, like our liver, our muscle, and our fatty tissue, especially around our belly, like our belly fat. What happens to the fat cells is when we have extra storage of fat, it actually makes our fat cells unhealthy. And our fat cells can produce chemicals that are inflammatory chemicals called adipose cytokines. And so that's a very fancy term, but that's basically, it's going to promote inflammation in our body. And when those are released, it actually weakens insulin's ability to do its job. And so that can produce low levels of inflammation in our body. That's actually trackable. We can track that on our lab panel. And for our bariatric patients, I do track that. And that's C-reactive protein, CRP is something we order. And if it's high, it means that there's some inflammation happening in our body. So that can also be a clue. And so when we have this inflammation, it actually blocks insulin's action. And so that makes it really hard for organs like your liver or your muscle or your other parts of your body and the cells to take up that blood sugar. And so what happens is your liver can actually start producing sugar as well. And now we get into this problem where we have too much sugar and we don't have a great way of bringing that blood sugar down because when we're making insulin, our body is becoming resistant to its job. And so that can create insulin resistance. And so high sugar over time leads to conditions like prediabetes and type 2 diabetes. So that's kind of how it works in the body. It's a bit complicated, but here's how I break it down to patients. If you have a lot of insulin in your body, that's putting you into a fat storage mode. We want low insulin to put us into a fat burning mode. So pre-insulin resistance, we're starting to see insulin levels bump up a little bit because they're not working so well. And so we need to create more insulin in order for that blood sugar to come back down. So it does eventually get that blood sugar down, but we're starting to see more and more insulin than normal in the body. And over time, your cells just stop responding as well to insulin. And so then we don't have a way to really bring that blood sugar down. So then we start to see higher levels of blood sugar. And when we have a higher level of blood sugar, we're going to start storing that away as fat. And when we see higher blood sugar, that's something we're looking at on your labs. That's going to be your fasting glucose. So if you are looking at your labs from your primary care and you see your fasting blood sugar level high, that could be a sign of some pre-insulin resistance or even insulin resistance popping up. Now, like I said, some primary care providers or physician or other practitioners may not even be checking your fasting insulin level. So you don't really know. And I typically see this. So after bariatric surgery, usually I'm the first person that the patient has ever seen that is ordering an insulin level. And so I'll tell you how we can track that and just make sure we're moving in the right direction with some of the changes that you can make in your diet and lifestyle to be a little bit more sensitive to insulin. So insulin resistance, it can contribute to weight regain or weight gain, cravings, fatigue, and metabolic issues. So I tell patients, your hormones are a little bit out of whack. We just want to try to help get them back in balance. So calculating that based on your lab test. So when I get my bariatric panel of labs back, what I'm doing is I'm looking at a whole bunch of things. But when I see their fasting glucose level and the fasting insulin level, I can do something about that. And I use a formula that's called the HOMA-IR. HOMA-IR stands for Homeostatic Model Assessment of Insulin Resistance. And so I can take a look and see what a patient's insulin resistance might be based on those two metrics. The higher that number, so it's just going to be an equation and it spits out a number for me. And the higher that number, it's more indicative that they may have insulin resistance. So how do you go about calculating it? Well, you take the fasting insulin. So fasting just means nothing to eat or drink after dinner. So kind of an empty stomach other than just water is what I tell patients. So you take your fasting insulin level and you multiply it by your fasting glucose level. That's your numerator. You're going to divide that number by 405. Now, how you interpret it, the interpretation scale is kind of all over the map depending on where you are in the world. But excuse me, for simplicity, under 1 or around 1 is normal. That's optimal. If you're in the 1 to 3, it's still normal, but I kind of like to consider anything more than like 1.15, almost like a 2.75. That's kind of like a pre-insulin resistance. So we're getting there. And then anything closer to 3 or higher is going to be more indicative of insulin resistance. Like I said, it's important to get your labs on a regular basis because we can calculate what your HOMA-IR is, and then we can track that on a regular basis to see what your trend is doing. So goals are going to be for your fasting glucose to be less than 100. So if yours is higher than that, and let's say you do or do not have your insulin level and you were fasted, making sure you didn't have anything to eat before the lab draw, that might be something you want to pay close attention to. You might be on the road to pre-insulin or insulin resistance. Fasting insulin should be less than 10. So if yours is getting a little bit higher than that, again, something to consider. With those, we calculate the HOMA-IR. We want your goal hemoglobin A1C to be less than 5.7. If you're getting into the 5.7 to the 6.4 range, we're getting into more of like a pre-diabetic range. And then anything with an A1C, this is an average of your blood sugar over the past 3 months. So anything more than 6.4 is going to put you into diabetic range. We also look at your lipids. So that's going to be your total cholesterol, your LDL, HDL cholesterol, triglycerides. We also get a ton of vitamins and minerals. So for our berry patients, some of them have 13 tubes of blood because we order so many things. Now, what can we do about this? That's the really good thing is I know this can sound a little bit scary of, oh my gosh, what if you're falling into one of those categories and you're thinking, what can I do about that? Well, you can have a lot of control and change to your blood work. And that's really behavior and lifestyle. So in this book, which I recommend reading, Good Energy, you want to focus on just real whole foods instead of processed diet foods. So when you hear the word process, I tell patients pretty simplistically, anything that's in a bag or a box with a barcode is what you want to just cut back on eating if you're eating a lot of that. And you're going to find most of those in the center aisles of the grocery store. So natural foods are going to be on the perimeter of the grocery store. And while that's really easy for me to say, okay, shop the perimeter of the grocery store, well, yeah, you can come home with a whole grocery bag full of produce and lean meats and seafood and dairy products, but now we have to learn how to cook and meal prep. So while these are easy bullet points, you might have to look internally and say, well, where do I need to start if I want to eat more whole foods? How do I cook? How do I grocery shop? How do I meal prep? So that could be a bit daunting to a lot of patients, but just start somewhere and start simplistically. And usually it's starting by cleaning out your pantry and your kitchen. You want to avoid ultra processed snacks that spike insulin levels. Remember, high insulin is fat storage. We want low insulin levels. How do we keep our insulin levels low? We want to prioritize protein, fiber, lots of those non-starchy vegetables, things that would easily go on a salad or cook on the stove with eggs pretty quickly. So water-based things like cucumbers, tomatoes, onions, mushrooms, leafy greens. The processed snacks like your chips and crackers and popcorn or baked goods, those are all going to just turn into carbs and sugar. So you're basically creating this sugar spike, the blood sugar, and now you're making insulin work to bring that down. So the more we can try to avoid the spikes and the more we stick to the balanced bariatric plate, half protein, half non-starchy vegetables. And the order is actually really important of when you have those macronutrients. So having your protein first and then your veggies, you're going to fill up on really satiating things that keep you full. Okay, if you have space, then you can have some starches, some healthy complex starches, like root vegetables, potatoes, sweet potatoes, quinoa. And that way, it's not going to be hitting your stomach on an empty stomach where you would see the spike of your sugar. It's going to be buffered and protected by the natural fiber in the vegetables and the protein and healthy fats like avocado and coconut oil, olive oil. All of those really do well to keep your blood sugar stable. So making sure you're hitting your macronutrients and making sure you're doing the order the right way can make a huge difference and completely under your control. And of course, it's really important to be as consistent as possible, which again is hard if you have a really busy life and you're running all over the place. And so again, a lot of these conversations I have with patients come to, well, what do we have in our fridge and how can we meal prep or just make it really easy? If you don't have a lot of time, make sure you're getting grab and go options like veggies already cut up from the grocery store and little hummus packets. So you're already having things that you can grab and have healthy options that you can take with you. So whole foods first, lean proteins. That could be plant-based proteins if you're vegetarian, like beans, legumes. Those are really high in protein and fiber. Yes, it does have carbs, but it's going to be, again, balanced by those other macronutrients. But lean chicken, use the air fryer. Patients do really well with preparing food that way. Healthy fats and fiber-rich veggies. Strength training a couple of days a week is so important because muscle is the biggest consumer of blood sugar. They are having, this is what I tell patients, if you're going to work out, I don't want you to just walk or just do cardio. I want you to build your muscle. So do water aerobics, do a workout class that works your whole body, do anything at home. Just functional fitness, meaning just do squats every time you go to the bathroom. Do some squats in the mirror to really start working on just interruptions throughout your day really add up, because the more skeletal muscle mass you have, the more that's going to help work together with you to keep your blood sugar really well controlled. That's your muscle's food, and it works to improve your insulin sensitivity. So if you don't have a ton of time to move your body, move it in a way by moving your muscles. That'll be the biggest bang for your buck. And do it at a moderate to vigorous intensity. Okay, so you and I shouldn't be just flipping our resistance bands or our weights around. It should be, I can't focus on you right now because I just have a couple more to go. That's a challenging weight for the muscle group that you're using with good form. Hydration is obviously super important. Are you getting 64 ounces of water in a day? That'll help keep you full as well. And sometimes we can have cravings and we can have drives to eat when we're actually thirsty. And so we're misinterpreting those signals. Just being really consistent in your bariatric vitamin regimen really helps prevent deficiencies. And then making sure you're staying on top of the lab monitoring, like I said. Now, if you're a bariatric patient, your practice probably has their own rhythm to how they do that. But if it's been a while and you haven't gotten your labs, now's a really good time to just get it done. Even if you're scared of what it's going to show, it's just good to have a new starting point that you can work with and improve upon. And it's really important, with that said, staying connected with your bariatric team. Make sure, even if you're a veteran patient and you're a year or two or years out, just check in. Make sure you're getting those labs. Make sure you're not missing anything else, because they want to know, they want to help be on the prevention side of things in case anything were to happen in your life where, we all have seasons of life that are challenging and we can get off track. And they should be a safe place for you to go to just help if you're struggling, especially with hunger, cravings, weight regain, any concerns on your labs. So things don't progress, for example, into the pre-insulin or insulin resistant categories. And lastly, so just make sure that when you are getting labs, you're asking your provider, if they're not already doing it, to make sure that they have the fasting glucose. They will have, that's pretty standard, but the insulin. And now that you know that equation, the fasting glucose times the fasting insulin divided by 405, the HOMA-IR number, you can track that yourself. And so that'll really know, okay, if that number is going down, ideally 1 or less, you're getting your hormones in better balance. Making sure you're setting your body up to try to develop better sensitivity for insulin by focusing on nutrient dense natural foods, avoiding bags and boxes with barcodes, focusing on building your muscle mass. You're not going to be a bodybuilder, but the more muscle you have, the more fat you'll burn and the better insulin sensitivity you'll create. Staying hydrated and just stay on top of all the follow-up labs and vitamins, and just know that your bariatric team is there to support you, not judge you. So definitely keep in touch with them. There we go.
That was quick. That
I
was a
know, we
lot.
whipped through.
So, yeah. And
Yeah, I figured there
so
might be
many good
some.
reminders. A lot of these people probably have been told some of these things already by their bariatric program, but some of it
Mm.
is just such great reminders too.
It's just, I know it's easy to say these things like do your protein and take your vitamins and do this and do that. But really, it's proof is in the pudding. It's in the lab work. I see, when I look through labs just now, I can tell, okay, what's going on, what's changed. And then the second we open that conversation, patients will say, I have been snacking more. I haven't been working out as much. And it's showing up in some of the lab testing. So it could be a really good opportunity for us to just be our own accountability buddy through that. And again, there's no judgment. It's just, hey, your body's responding to this and we're having some hormonal metabolic changes happening here. So let's try to just hone in and focus in and create some actionable goals that feel doable to be consistent with.
Absolutely. We do have some questions came in. Are you
Yeah,
ready to do some questions?
let's do it. We have lots of time.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. Peggy asked, I was given folic acid on pre-surgery. Is that something I will be taking for the rest of my life? What do you usually tell patients?
So that's going to be a team dependent answer because I don't know what your bariatric surgeon or team wants you to take after. But you have that vitamin in your bariatric multivitamin anyway. So it's already included in the comprehensive multivitamin. Whether you need to take an extra one, that's a case by case if you're struggling with a folate deficiency. But that is something that we check on our bariatric lab panels post-operatively. So typically I would just have patients on their bariatric standard multivitamin with iron. And then if anything pops up, then I would address that with an additional folic acid or folate supplement on top of it. Mhm.
Okay. Um, Gwen asked, so besides food and building muscles, anything else to rebuild my metabolism?
Oh, so that's we can go in a lot of different directions with that. Yes. So let's say all of your labs looked great. Otherwise, I would be asking, okay, well, how many calories are you eating per day? So are we eating enough? I think sometimes we still have this diet mentality. I'm not saying you, Gwen, I'm just speaking openly that, we have to eat less and that's how we diet and we lose weight. But that slows your metabolism down. So, one of, if you have a dietitian, they can help calculate some equations for you to see what your specific caloric needs are, what your resting metabolic rate is based on who you are as a person. There's variables in there, your age, your gender, your activity level. If you're very active, you probably need to be eating more food depending on where you're starting. And so that's really important too. If you're not eating enough food, then you're not, you could be slowing your metabolism instead of reinvigorating your metabolism and getting it more active. Also, looking at the pattern of how often you're eating throughout the day. Are you not hungry in the morning and you have a coffee and then you don't, and you're busy at work. And then by the end of the day, you're having one main meal. I hear that from some patients. So you need to kind of break that cycle and you need to try to wake up, have something protein forward, even if it's a coffee, like a protein coffee. Make sure you have some kind of healthy snack. So have a handful of plain nuts midway through breakfast and lunch, or some, bell peppers, cucumbers, and hummus, something like that. That's easy, or hard boiled egg and cheese stick, things, quick things like that. Have your lunch, have another snack. Every practice will say different things in terms of the frequency. But if you're not able to eat a lot of food after bariatric surgery because you have a lot of restriction, you might be just one of those grazers that has like a couple ounces, but you have to eat more frequently throughout the day in order to be eating enough calories to keep your metabolism activated. Okay. What we don't want to do is go all day, not eat. And then we just have one big meal and then we go to bed. Okay. So um, I hope that helps. What else? Hormones play a role. Where are you? How old are you? Again, not asking you specifically a rhetorical question, but are you premenopause? Are you perimenopause? Are you postmenopause? Sometimes it can be really hard. And that's why some of these medications are fabulous because they provide external hormones that your body is already creating just to help with weight loss moving forward and those hormones. Sleep,
Those were great
stress,
suggestions.
those are the other ones
Yeah.
I should touch on because we often don't talk about that. But hey, what's your life like? How are you stressed? And I get a couple chuckles back. It's like, who's not stressed? But do you have real stuff going on in your life? If you do, you're going to have higher levels of cortisol. That's a hormone that's going to prevent you from trying to lose weight. How much are you sleeping? I just had a patient. She's like, I try to sleep, but I can't get myself to fall asleep until 2 o'clock in the morning. Well, then you're up for work again and you're running on 4 or 5 hours of sleep every night. That's not going to help either. So, trying to unpack that can be really helpful to see all of the variables that play, right? There's a lot. It's not a straight answer. So it is multifactorial.
And I feel like 2K coming from that standpoint, if you're struggling with that, like, and it's truly a question that you want to investigate further, seeing somebody like your practitioner, like Kate,
Yeah.
somebody that will help guide you through some questions and thought process, because it isn't usually just one thing. It can be multifactorial, just as you said. Um,
Well, and Brenda, real quick, it's like peeling an onion because you talk about stress and someone has whatever is happening in their life and then they're not sleeping. Well, they wake up and then they're craving sweets and carbs all day because they're sleep deprived and they're chasing down coffee, which they might be loading with sugar and cream. And so now we're seeing spikes of tying this all in, right? Now we're going to be seeing spikes of blood sugar, glucose, and then crashes. And so we get the cookies and the chips because we're low on energy. And this is what we do all day long. And the insulin is there for the ride. And so that's the stage that's set for pre-insulin resistance and insulin resistance. So we have to break that cycle. And getting, yeah, like you said, multidisciplinary support is paramount to that.
Absolutely. Gosh, we got so many questions. Katie says, can one request the insulin lab to be drawn?
I've done it myself on myself. It's going to be insurance dependent. I paid $6 at LabCorp. Obviously, that's anecdotal. So you can do that. It helps to have that done together with glucose at the same time. So what I would typically say is when you have your upcoming annual physical exam with your primary care provider, ask if they have that there and ask if they can add it on to the lab panel. They can manually add on those lab tests. And, you might get some feedback, back, but I would just stand your ground on it it's good insight. It doesn't hurt.
Absolutely. Okay, the next one. Would you be able to share a list of the labs that a bariatric patient who is post-op should get and how often? And also, do these change as you get further out from your surgery date?
Okay, so this is going to be different for every practice that you go to. I do have a list. Let me think. How would I provide that for? So based on the ASMBS, what I would say is look at your bariatric vitamin uh, nutrition label because pretty much that's what we're doing. We're checking every single vitamin and mineral on that lab panel. It's a lot, and it's going to be the basic primary care panel. So I'll just verbally tell you what we order, but every practice is going to be different. So we're going to order like your basic metabolic panel. So that's going to check your liver enzymes, your kidney function. That's very standard of care from primary care, and your blood counts. That also has your there's the blood glucose is going to be in there. We check your thyroid. We check your iron panel. We check your inflammatory markers like that CRP. We check all the vitamins, all the minerals. That's going to be just like your bariatric vitamin bottle. The insulin, like I was mentioning, parathyroid hormone, that's another one. Sometimes I check on that hormone because it's very common to see a vitamin D deficiency. And so that plays together with your parathyroid. So that's just like speaking off cuff of what I typically order
And
as
I'm
our
writing
set.
these into the chat box if you're on the live event.
Mm,
I'm going to write some of the ones I know that Kate mentioned, and then also that my provider that I do when I do my vitamin labs every year. Um, and I think it varies too a little bit. Like every facility is a little different. I will say, uh, I was trying to think if maybe we have that listed on our website on some of our handouts, but I'm not positive. So
yeah,
if in a moment when we go into our website, we can look at our handouts and I can see if that's on there. But really it's provider specific. And I would
yeah.
say a bariatric surgeon probably would be able to give you a more comprehensive list than a primary care doctor.
Oh, you want to make sure, thank you. You want to make sure that if you've had bariatric surgery, that you are getting bariatric panel labs done by your team. That's very different than your primary care provider labs. Okay. So that's something to be specific. Now, I will say that if I have a medical weight loss patient, sometimes even a sleep patient, I'm not going to be ordering the massive laundry list of all of the vitamins and minerals that I would order. This is me as a provider speaking with my patients at my practice, to a switch patient or a SADie patient that has a lot of malabsorption and bypass patients. So, it's variable and it's hard because every surgery center does different kinds of surgery. So I would say, generally speaking, bariatric team will do your bariatric lab panels separate from your primary care. It doesn't hurt to share your primary care labs. And typically what I'll say to my patients is, hey, if you have an upcoming PCP appointment, do our lab panel first because I take 13 tubes of your blood. And then you share it with your primary care provider. And if that's enough for them and they don't need anything else, cool. You just saved yourself a blood stick. Okay. So if anything, maybe ours could replace theirs, but they also have their own things that they want to check on. So keeping it separate is still best.
Gonna
I know you are juggling a lot. It's a lot to
I'm
navigate with
going back
them.
and forth from Facebook. That's why if it looks like I'm
Mhm.
not paying attention, I'm totally paying attention. I'm just going back from Facebook and looking at comments because there's a lot of comments and it coming in, and I'm wanting to try, and I'm gonna paste all of these lab levels back into Facebook here in a moment. But so we got that. I'm trying to go back and forth from the comments to see
I'll
how.
help you out too. There you go.
Yes, how about I take all the ones on Q&A first? If we let's do it for another maybe 8 minutes, and then we'll kind of I want you to also tell us a little bit about Banana Bariatrics. So, how to avoid or reduce skin flaps.
Skin, like excess skin, body
I
skin.
think that's what they mean. Like after surgery, you lose weight and you have extra skin that's
Yeah, yeah. So that one's hard. It depends where your starting weight is and how much weight you have to lose. It also depends on genetics and your collagen elasticity. So basically, those are fancy words of saying if you have a lot of weight to lose, some of it's not within your control. You might have extra skin, and the best treatment for that would be skin removal surgery with a plastic surgeon. What I will say is you should mention it to your bariatric team along the way. Make sure you're getting appropriate treatment, especially if you have rashes underneath the skin fold of your belly or under your breast tissue. Make sure you're mentioning that. It helps to have documentation of that along your journey so that if you do talk to a plastic surgeon, you'll have tried creams and you'll tried all the things. Not everything is covered by insurance for our skin removal, but it helps to have that timeline. Now, strength training can help because you're building muscle mass. And the pace at which you lose weight will depend on how much extra skin you'll have. So, the first 6 months after surgery, we've noticed the steepest drop in weight loss, and that's going to be where you might notice the most significant amount of extra skin that you have. So, some of that is very variable. If you have slow and steady weight loss, your body recoil and elasticity might be better adapted to that, and you might not have as much. But especially if patients have a lot of weight that they've lost, it might be unavoidable, unfortunately. So I know it's not fun.
this one I'm going to take because I feel like there's probably people on this call. What happens? Let's see. How does being on a GLP-1 medication interweave with insulin resistance?
Yeah, so it improves your metabolic health. So there are two hormones inside these medications that work together with your sensitivity to insulin. And so it can definitely improve your insulin sensitivity, and weight loss in general helps put your body into better metabolic balance. So, there's if you are on a GLP-1, that can definitely help. And again, you should be tracking it. So getting those regular, I still order a lab panel for my medical weight loss patients because I want to see, okay, are you, and these medications are on top of a foundation of diet. And I say diet, just healthy eating and exercising and building the muscle. So the behavioral stuff, it can amplify the behavioral results of the efforts you're making. So they can definitely be allies in that and absolutely contribute to improvements in your metabolic functioning and health with the hormones.
How about you kind of touched just a little bit on menopause? I feel like that's a whole topic
Yeah.
on itself, but
Yeah.
I have somebody on Facebook that says, "Will you address menopause impacts on metabolic health?"
Well, that is not my lane. I wish I could talk on that. That is, we actually did a talk with Dr. Lindley Durrett. She is an OBGYN in Atlanta, and she talked all about the interplay of menopause and estrogen and progesterone and how those swings, the ups, the downs do affect your hormones and your ability to lose weight. So, some of those hormones can contribute to weight gain. That one's a hard one for me to touch on because it's so outside of my lane. But if you are going through perimenopause, if you are thinking that you might be in that phase, I would definitely talk to an OBGYN who specializes in hormone replacement therapy. There are nuances in getting those hormone levels checked, not just a static one time. Like there's, you have to check it multiple times, and for them to really be able to have a conversation too about hormone replacement therapy and how getting those hormones in better balance can optimize your weight loss and your metabolism too. But it's very nuanced, and I just don't feel like that's within my scope to really understand how to communicate that. Sorry. But
No,
it's
it's definitely
common.
plays in. Definitely
Oh, it
plays in.
definitely plays in. And actually a lot of the so here's what I will say. A lot of patients that I see in their mid 50s are perimenopausal, postmenopausal. They've done all the things, they've tried all the things, and it's really hard to lose weight since having being postmenopausal. And when I get their panel of labs, if I do see insulin resistance, I am very inclined to start them on metformin. So metformin's a diabetic medication, but it's a generic off-label medication that's used for weight loss. And it can get you about 5% total weight loss. And it helps with, putting your insulin into better balance. And so that could be a really great, and it's affordable. So we use that in clinic for patients with insulin resistance to help with weight loss too. So that might be an option that you can talk to your provider about.
There's so many questions, and I think I'm going to take one more, which
Okay.
we can keep you on here for another hour. Kate actually is going to be seeing patients right after this, so we have to like vary on our time.
Okay.
The last question I'm going to take here is, what is your opinion on high PTH? Always high.
Always high. I would say be looking to see. So there's a lot of different reasons for why it can be high. Sometimes I'll see it high as a secondary reason. So if a patient's vitamin D level is low, so the normal range for vitamin D is 30, upwards to about like 100. And if a patient has a vitamin D deficiency, sometimes that could put your parathyroid hormone levels out of whack. So there's a mechanism there, like seesaw. When your one hormone goes down, the other goes up. Now, that's not the only reason why your parathyroid hormone could be elevated. That's just one of the reasons. So you always want to talk to your provider about that. Now, calcium is part of that, but calcium is a mineral that it's not common to see low because it's just so vital to be in the normal range for so many roles that it plays in the body. So that's where I usually detect it, is in that vitamin D level. So that's where I would look. And if your vitamin D level is normal, then you want to, further dive into that with your provider.
Okay, absolutely. Kate, if somebody has, a lot of people have more questions here. So
Yes.
tell us how they can connect with you, and also a little bit about what you're doing with your aftercare program, and also you have a special promotion for us too.
Yeah, timely. Okay, questions, just email me here. You can see my screen, Brenda. So just email me at info@bananabariatrics.com. So that's my email. You can message me again. My name is Kate Foos. And if you want to join our aftercare program, it's bananabariatrics.com is the website. So you can go on there to learn. That's really good for just learning more about health, nutrition, if you're a bariatric patient or a medical weight loss patient. Everything is backed by our national guidelines. So the information is really vetted. But we learn and we cook. And so there's a lot of meal prep and cooking support in there as well. And the community is really great. So we're actually doing something super fun. You can see this, Brenda, the screen.
Yes.
Okay, so we like to do monthly challenges. Just as I said, I like to be in action and not just like a passive receiver. So we do 5-day challenges in our community. It's totally free if you want to join. You don't have to be part of the community, but scan this code and here's, the long-winded version of what that URL is. But it's free, and when you register, your email will send you days 1 through 5 of this challenge. It's called the Sugar Crush Challenge, and this is starting on Monday. So we're basically getting prepped for the holidays, and sugar, which can, in timely manner of this topic, we help we want to help prevent insulin resistance. So this is a great way to prepare yourself for the holidays, the temptations of sugar, and we give really healthy bariatric holiday-friendly recipes and support to one another. So you're welcome to join that and be a part of that. And if you're someone that likes to have a little bit more high touch point like this with you and I also have inner circle coaching. It is small group. I keep it very small, and basically, it is it's like a group chat, and we just touch base pretty much every day. At a time that works for you, checking in where your struggles, and it offers a lot of one-on-one coaching that way in small group. So if that's something you're interested, you can also find that on the main page, bananabariatrics.com. You'll see that coaching option as well.
Awesome. Well, so the best ways is your email, info@bananabariatrics.com. They can
Mm-hmm.
also check you out on your website, bananabariatrics.com.
Yep.
And you're on Instagram, I know that, and Facebook.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So lots of
Yeah.
places. This challenge, you said it starts Monday, October
It does.
13th. So it's coming
Mm-hmm.
up. So if you're listening to the replay, because these are usually like a week after that, the replay will
Mm-hmm.
be open. Somebody had asked, you can use the same link to listen again if you missed out on part of this.
Yeah.
But is there a deadline for that? Like if somebody's
You
late to
can stagger
join?
into it. And you know what? Just join our free community anyway. Bariatric weight loss surgery group on Facebook. You'll have the link for it as well in the notes. But that one, we do challenges like this every month. So if you can't make this one, you can catch the next one too. So um,
Perfect. I'm
yeah,
actually, so you are an affiliate of ProCare, which you've always been a supporter of ProCare Health,
I
which is
love
our
ProCare.
sponsor. And so I'm going to jump onto the website, Kate. Let me get
Absolutely.
over there. And we're doing, right now, one of our fun things we're doing is bundles, and that's me. I have a little bundle. It's a Brenda bundle. Couple products. Haley has one and Amanda has one. What are some of your favorite products that you recommend?
Oh, I recommend, oh gosh, I know all of your products because the ProCare 45, so the multivitamin, the 45. I also like how you have, speaking of lab results, varieties of your multivitamins. So this the ProCare Special 45 that has a reduced vitamin B12 level. I do that. Calcium chewies are really great. We also sell those in the office. Oh, I mean, I literally do all of these. If you're a say to your switch patient, no, I'm serious. Say to your switch patient, the once daily. I love that it's a everything's combined. Multivitamin, iron, it's one pill that you take once a day with your calciums. Um, I like that you guys also have the ADEK extra. So I'll usually use those for patients like my malabsorptive procedure patients, like the switch patients. If they have a lot of those vitamins that are low, that's a great option to add on top of that. There's just a lot of options here based on what your labs show. It's easy for me to point, my patients to your website for what they need. Prenatal, if you get pregnant, you definitely want to be on a prenatal bariatric multivitamin. What other ones? And if you're not a big fan of swallowing pills, the chewables are in every option. So, and you always have great flavors. Like your newest
There's
one, right? The peaches and cream. Very,
Yeah,
very Georgia relevant.
I forget. Georgia known for their peaches.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
We have
So
the caramel ones that everyone loves in the clinic.
awesome. Well, I'm also gonna just jump on here. Besides products, guys, if you've not ever tried ProCare and you'd like to try it, when you get onto the main page, it's procarenow.com. And there is a little blue bar at the very top. Here it says interested in free sample. You can click here to get free samples. We also now have this fun little vitamin quiz. So if you're new to vitamins and you're wanting to know maybe what might be best for you, that might be a great place to start. I also want to mention our resources page, which we have several different things there. Berry Connected, which is the podcast that you're listening to right now, and we promote our upcoming podcast on that page. We'll soon be listing the November, probably towards the end of the month, actually. But we have our one from last month on there, and here now, Kate's. And when you press this register now, it's going to take you to a page to ask you a few questions, and that will help us learn more about you and where you are on your journey. And also, I do share attendance with several facilities, about 70 different facilities that actually use these and use the attendance to help patients with those pre-op requirements, a lot of times that are required for surgery, either through their facility or for insurance purposes. Also want to mention our YouTube channel. So on that YouTube channel, we right now have about, I think, maybe 550 different videos. I'll pop on there here in a second and just kind of give you a highlight. Kate's replay will be listed on there as well, coming soon. If you subscribe to that page, when you get there, basically you'll see a little subscribe button up at the top, right up here somewhere, and it'll let you know when new events are listed. So we've actually, Kate and I have done events together in the past. So if you actually type on this little search button, you can actually type in Kate's name and you'll probably be able to see some of the events that we've done before, which is really fun. So a great little place as well to kind of check out. It looks like 524 videos. I also want to mention too, we do have Facebook page and group as well to join our communities. You're welcome to join us. And when you click that button, it'll bring you to a page just to be part of ours. So Kate, thank you so much for all of that. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. I'm going to go ahead and put on here the Kate's affiliate link to save. Guys, you can use her discount code, which is banana10. And what that will do is get you 10% off those ProCare products that are listed on the ProCare website and save you a little money when you order your stash of vitamins.
Love it. Love it. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you guys for watching and for all of your great questions. Don't hesitate to reach out if you ever need anything.
um, Kate, you still there? I kind of,
Oh, can you hear me?
yes, I popped
Did
on
I
the
cut out?
Facebook page to pop on and share your code, and
Yeah.
it kind of glitched for a second. So
Well, you didn't glitch on our end, so the recording should be good. But yeah, no, this was great. This is wonderful, Brenda. I was really excited to talk about this topic because I really do feel like it empowers everyone listening to just take ownership of your labs, and really use that to drive your changes to be as consistent as possible in what you're doing. And it is something that you can improve. Okay. It's not like a lost cause. So just keep at it. Don't quit, and reward yourself. If it's moving in the right direction, that's a lot of hard work. So recognize that in yourself and give yourself some props. You guys are working really hard. Proud of all of you, and you care. You're here, you're listening, you're watching the replay. So thank you guys all for being a part of this.
yeah, thank you. And everybody have a great rest of your day, great rest of your week and month, and happy fall, because I know we're right here in the fall vibes. So enjoy and take care. We'll see you at the next Very Connected. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.